Okay, now that you've watched the class introduction video, hopefully you have. If you haven't, then go back and watch this for sure. That's going to be very important. I want to just highlight a few things here in the syllabus. Now the syllabus, if you go down to modules here, the syllabus is going to be right here at the top. Just click on that. You'll have a place where you can download that to your computer if you want to do that, or upload it to your computer. Or you can see it right here on the screen. This is my email address. Here's the phone number. That's just the phone number, though, to the institute itself, to the office there. So that's not a direct line to me. So probably the best way to get to me is going to be through the email address here. I'm only at the school twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I'm only there for a couple of hours. So really calling up there is probably not going to get you anywhere, really, because when I'm there, I'm going to be in class. So I wouldn't be able to answer anyway. So be sure that you email me if you have questions. Note that this is a 5-quarter-hour course. You have some objectives here. You can look at those if you would like to. There is no required textbook here. I recommend that you get the APA manual, but everything that you're going to need as far as instructions or videos or whatever, you're going to find those in the modules, and I'm going to either make those or send you links to those, so you'll be able to get to those in that way. I don't know of any quizzes that you may take other than maybe a diagnostic or two. There could be a quiz thrown in there. If there is, then you'll see that there, notice this right here. I'm going to give assignments, possibly quizzes, written compositions on a periodic basis. So be sure that you pay attention to those and make sure that you're following the instructions that I give you. Notice here we're going to be writing 4 compositions. We're going to start with a narrative, which is just a story, a personal narrative. So it's a story about you, which shouldn't be too bad, I don't think, anyway. But the narrative assignment will be due in week 2. Okay, so we're going to move pretty quickly through this, the narrative assignment, because really the personal narrative is probably the easiest composition you're going to have. So at the end of week 2, actually the Sunday after week 2 ends, so you'll have a couple other days or a few other days or a couple other days there, to get that composition in. That'll be due at the end of week 2 on that Sunday. After week 2 is over, and then we're going to be doing a profile, and I'll explain that a little bit better to you as we get into that. We'll start that in week 3, and then the profile will be due in week 4. All right, so after 4 weeks, into the semester, you'll have 2 of the 4 compositions already behind you, so that's good. Profile's not going to be too hard either, I don't think, for most of you, but anyway, we're going to get through it for sure. And then when you get to, the next one that we're going to do is a review. Okay, so you'll be reviewing something. It could be a product, or it could be a movie, it could be a number of things. We'll discuss that a little bit more as we get into it. Again, that's going to be due on the Sunday after week 6. Okay, so all the due dates will be on Sundays. As far as the compositions go, they'll be due on Sundays. So be familiar or know that. So that'll be after week 6. And then the rest of the semester, up until week 8, at the end of week 8, and there'll probably be maybe even week 9, we may stretch that to week 9, is when the argument essay, that'll be the final essay that you do, the argument essay. And so we're going to spend a little bit of time there. We're going to camp out and look at some of the types of arguments that people make, and formats for arguments and those kinds of things. So we'll look at that. Spend some time there, and then you can write your argument paper. And then weeks 9 and 10, we'll be focusing on some more practical things like writing obituaries, for instance. We're also going to do a little bit of a short unit on funeral traditions in various religions and walks of life, those kinds of things. So you'll have a chance to look at some of those as well. All right, so that's kind of what we're looking at for this semester. Notice that you get, for the 4 compositions, you'll get up to 400 points. That's the most you can get. If you got all of the points, there were no mistakes or anything in your paper, you covered everything that was asked to be covered, you'll get up to 400 points, 100 points each for each composition. 4 reflection papers, and the reflection papers will be every other week on the even weeks, at the end of the even weeks. And so What that is, it's just a paragraph, maybe even 2 paragraphs, where you just talk about something that you learned or something that that happened that you want to talk about. You're just reflecting on the 2 weeks prior. What did I learn? What did I already know? How can I apply these things? Whatever you want to write about, really, it's kind of open. Should be a fairly easy grade. You're just responding and reflecting on what you've done and what you've learned. All right, so it shouldn't be too hard. And then those are 25 points each, so you'll have 4 of those. We'll do one on week 2, one on week 4, one on week 6, and one on week 8, and then you don't have to worry about 10. All right, week 10, we're just going to be working on those last 2 little units there. And then week 11, you'll do one final reflection paper. Okay, and what that's going to do is that final reflection paper, instead of it being extra points for you, or like points right here or whatever, if you turn in that final reflection paper and you do what I've asked you to do with that, what that's going to do, that can give you up to 50 points that will be added to whatever grade you have. All right, so they're kind of extra points, if you will, if that makes sense. All right, that final exam. Which isn't really an exam, it's just a reflection paper, right? And I'll explain that more as we get into the semester later. And then 10 points each for daily classwork, quizzes, etc. In other words, what that really is each week you will get 10 points just for participating. So if you're doing everything I'm asking you to do, you're turning in the assignments, getting things in on time, you're going to get those 10 points each week. So it shouldn't be a problem. So for the first week, you're just going to answer that one little discussion question. And then, you do that, you've got the 10 points for that week. And that's great. And if you do that the rest of the week, or the rest of the weeks, then you will be in good shape there. This shows you the point range for what you would need to score to make the various letter grades there. You'll see that. This is a general education course. So this one to the right, this is what you're shooting for right here. Notice that you can make lower grades in the general ed courses than you can in your specialized courses. But what I would try to shoot for, if I were you, is just to try to reach the grades in here, even though it's general education. Try to reach these grades over here. Hold yourself to this standard, and then you will definitely reach this one over here if you can do that. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. All right. There are some general course policies in here. I would encourage you to make sure and talk or read through those. If you have some course issues with Canvas, be sure that you call this number right here. You might want to write that somewhere, because if you're having trouble with Canvas, you're probably not seeing this video. So be sure that you write that number down there. I don't think you're going to have to, as far as this class goes, you're not going to have to worry about Proctorio, because we're not doing any we're not going to do any exams or anything that would be proctored like that. So, but for other classes, you may need that. All right, attendance is expected in every class. Your attendance really is, is basically just like the 10 points you get on a weekly basis for participating. If you're participating, then you've attended. So that's how attendance will kind of be kept there. So be sure you're staying on top of everything as far as that goes. All right. Read the rest of this carefully. Be sure you're not plagiarizing. Remember, plagiarism is just using information or sources without giving credit to those sources, taking someone else's ideas, in other words, and stealing those and using them without giving credit to the person. Just avoid that, if at all. Well, avoid that altogether there. All right, so I hope that makes a little bit of sense. Again, if you have questions, be sure to let me know. Remember, my email address is right up here at the top. m.wicker@commonwealth.edu. Have a great semester, and I wish you the very best.